these guys came into my office wearing like these windbreakers, like you see in the movies, these windbreakers, like these dark blue windbreakers that says FBI on the back.
Three, two, one, yeah!
After leaving the corporate 9-to-5 grind, I became the boss of my own spiritual business, helping others explore and navigate the human experience from insight, wisdom, and lessons learned along the way. Today, I help aspiring spiritual entrepreneurs gain the confidence to share their gifts with the world. Welcome to the Happy Healing Shop podcast. I'm your host, Trang Pham Nguyen, and each week we'll dive into incredible stories of strength, resilience, and transformation. So, if you are ready for some serious breakthroughs, laughs and tears, and stories that will inspire you, you are in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. In this episode, we have a very special guest with quite a surprising story with an unexpected turn. When she started as a personal assistant, Sara ran errands and tasks for her boss. Little did she know that her life was about to be turned upside down when she discovered she was unknowingly involved in a crime, manipulated as a puppet. After pleading guilty and facing the consequences, Sara's life changed drastically. Yet, even in the face of adversity, she defied the odds and managed to create the life she desired on her own terms, ultimately finding her happiness. Join us as we dive into Sara's powerful story of overcoming challenges, even though the odds were against her, embracing her strength and taking control of her destiny. Her journey of resilience and transformation is sure to inspire all who hear it. And please note that this episode contains adult language, so please listen with care. Welcome to the show, Sara. Thank you for being here. We met in the Philippines back in 2014, I believe. And it was there just on a day boat trip. And then eventually we kept our friendship after being back in the States. And we also traveled to Mexico for quite a while. And I think that is when I found out about your life story. It was just like in the middle of the night, deep talk. You pretty much told everything. And I was like, this girl needs to write a book. Anyways, so I think today is such a special treat for people to hear about your story because it is incredible. It is very different. And you never know who can help anyone because, I'll let you take it away. But when I first met you, you were, I knew you as a fitness trainer. So, and a world traveler. So were you always a world traveler and always an entrepreneur in your life?
Yeah, I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur, like in heart, I guess. But I've always wanted to start my own business and just kind of do my own thing because obviously I'm not really good at uh, taking direction from people or. So, but as far as traveling, I didn't really start traveling until, well, like really, really traveling until probably around 2014 when we met, actually. Because well, obviously before that I couldn't travel. So, but once I was able to travel, I got my passport. 2014, my first trip was to Asia, back to Taiwan, and then to see my mom in the Philippines when I met you.
Yeah. So when you said earlier on, you're not really great at following authority or directions and things like that, or being told, would you say that came from more of parents? Because obviously you and I have a similar experience probably in terms of knowing what it's like to grow up with parents from an Asian culture, especially immigrant culture. So what was that like for you? Or was it originally from work of not wanting to follow directions?
I would say it's mostly from my childhood, having to, just having like really strict parents, not parents, but more my dad. My dad raised us. My mom wasn't really there, but I had really strict grandparents, really strict uh, aunts and uncles, and my dad was very, very strict on us because he's like very old fashioned,
Yeah.
typical Asian parent. Like he was like the tiger dad instead of tiger mom. So yeah, I think I mean yeah, I don't know if because I just wasn't born to take directions well, or if he just made it worse. I'm not quite sure, so
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it's
but I just think that because of that upbringing just made me more um like rebellish, instead of
yeah.
like saying, okay, dad, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'm like, no, I'm going to do the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah, I feel like especially with people that are a bit more independent like you and me. I know there's other siblings or other people I've met where they feel like, okay, I'll listen, or maybe be the people pleaser. Yeah, it depends on how the kid internalizes and takes it, right? So you might have a sibling that gets the same treatment, but they go like, okay, I will follow everything that you say because I don't want to cause any trouble, that kind of stuff. And then there's people like us that's just like, no, I'm gonna live my own life and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna, as difficult as I'm gonna go my own path, travel, peace out. So and so it's just different paths for everyone, right? And I think having Asian parents or especially helicopter parents, it really, as much as they might guilt trip us saying like they did everything for us, in a way they still push us away from them.
Mhm.
So was it hard? Kind of like how did you deal with it? Because obviously, when you're in your teens, we don't have money to be like, bye, I'm gonna rent my own place. So how did you guess like how did you cope with it or how did you handle it during that time when you want to be free, even though you were had to live under that roof?
I think my getaway was, just making friends and just having friends that I can count on to run away to when I needed to, which I did as a child. I ran away, not ran away, but I would like leave the house in the middle of the night or whatever just to go to my friend's house because to me that was like a safer place as opposed to being at home. Um, Gosh, it's weird because now the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm learning more about myself and why I am the way I am and why I did the things I did as a child. So yeah, so I guess yeah, I was running away from, you know, you know, being in that environment where my dad was just super strict on me and with so many rules and things like that. So I would just go to my friends and I had many friends that I could just always go to. You know, I think that's why as an adult now, I treat my friends as like my family because of that.
Yeah, same. And I think it's friends are the family you choose, at least too.
Mhm.
So you have a choice there. Um, and fast forward, can you take me to when you were saying earlier about how when we met traveling, it was you weren't really able to travel beforehand, before then. Um, so what happened there? And I think anyone listening, this is the epic part where you go, what? Oh, and also, no, actually go ahead. Take away with I guess people might ask, like, why weren't you able to travel? Because people
Yeah,
might think health
so
issues or school or
yeah. Yeah, so I was very young in my 20s. I was working with this really successful, what I thought was successful entrepreneur who had many different businesses, and he kind of took me under his wing and just kind of showed me the ropes on how to be uh, the perfect assistant, the perfect personal assistant. Um, and he just taught me a lot of things about business, and I just thought that was kind of cool because I was very young. Didn't really have, I don't have a college degree, so it was nice to have someone to be there to kind of give me direction, right? So, anyways, I worked with him for a few years, basically just doing everything he asked me to do. Nothing that I felt was illegal or anything, because obviously I was young. It was like one of my first, I guess, real uh, job. I guess. I mean, I've had many jobs before, but like this was like, oh, like I was like in an office. It felt very corporate to me. I was like, oh, I'm a big deal here. And he would, as a 20-year-old something, he would have me, tell employees like what to do. And I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. These people who are older than me actually listening to what I'm saying. So that kind of felt good, right? So, um, so yeah, and so I worked with him for quite a few years, and then come to find out later on, he was actually doing things that weren't legal and kind of basically just had me, I was kind of roped into it. I was young, vulnerable, and he took advantage of me, and that was it.
So could you elaborate more about what happened?
Yeah, so as his personal right hand person, I would do pretty much everything for him. Anything that had to do with his business, anything that had to do with even with his personal life. I knew his wife, his son. Like I met them. We've done a lot of family outings together, and yeah. So like I would run a lot of errands for him. So to me, I just felt that was totally normal, right? You know, ordering groceries, or contact his lawyers, or make an appointment for him for this, for a haircut, or whatever it was. I did it, and he had so many contacts. Like I remember, I had such good memory back then. I would remember everyone's phone number. I knew he had 20 lawyers. I knew every single one of their numbers. Yeah, like 15 accountants. I knew every single one of their numbers. Like it was just so like I just felt so proud of myself, like being able to do that kind of stuff, in my 20s, right? I'm like, I'm such a big shot, I could do this. So yeah. Then, at one point he came to the point where was started opening up some businesses where he needed, accounts to be open, such as bank accounts, or, you know, brokerage accounts, anything. And so he would ask me like, hey, since you're my right hand person, like, could you do this? Put it under, because I don't want to open too many accounts in my name. So can you do this for me? And I said, yeah, of course, because I'm learning the ropes from this guy. This guy's showing me the ropes and how to run a business, right? So I did that a lot. There were quite a few accounts that were under my name. Again, at that time, I thought nothing of it. I thought everything was perfectly normal. This is my first real like corporate business like job. So
And
I
you
just
told
thought
me
totally
and you
normal.
told me, as a boss, he was totally nice to you, right? It wasn't like he
Oh,
didn't feel shady, he didn't feel anything.
nothing whatsoever. I just felt maybe I was just so dumb and vulnerable at the time, but I felt he was like such a nice guy. He would not that he would like buy me unusual things, but he would give me bonuses. Nothing unusual, like maybe Christmas bonus. He'd give me like a nice Christmas bonus. I thought that was totally normal. He didn't always give other people bonuses, but everyone else would get a bonus, but probably not as much as me. But I felt like, well, I did a lot of work, so I deserve this bonus, right? Like I always felt like, have you seen that movie like Devil Wears
Where's
Prada?
Prada? Yes. I don't think people
That was
that was your life.
that was me. Like I would, my phone was always on. He would call me, he would text me in the middle of the night, sometimes not expecting me to reply or answer, but I would, because I felt obligated to, because I felt like this is my job. He's paying me to be there for him 24/7. So that was me, right? So yeah.
And then yeah, I don't think people realize what personal executive assistants, how much we do and how much that we take care of to be able to keep them running and for them to be able to keep on making money. So okay. So you spoke about the bank accounts, and he's saying, "Oh, can you just like, oh, I have too many accounts open. Can you just open some under your name?" And then what happened?
Yeah, I just had some yes, I had accounts under my name. He would have me there were a lot of like different types of transactions that he would have me do, wire money. I would call the bank. I knew all the bankers at every single bank that was like near our office. Like I knew so many of them. They all knew me. And again, as a 20-year-old, I just felt like a big shot. Like I am such a big shot, And so yeah, and I would call brokerage firms. He would have me. He would direct me to give specific directions to the brokerage firms to do daily transactions, weekly transactions, whatever it was. But everything came from him. Everything that I was told to tell them came from him, basically. I never did anything on my own, anything like that.
It's
So
like he gave you the scripts to say like, I
pretty
did the
much,
transfer
yeah,
and blah 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 in this account. Great.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So, and I did that because, again, I'm his assistant. That's what I should this is my job. I
Yeah.
should just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing ever felt illegal or anything at that time.
Yeah. And then even you told me that story one time how you went to the bank and he said he needed to get cash. Can you tell me that story? Because I remember going, wow.
Yeah, this is definitely something I will always remember. He had me go to one of the banks that was under my name, and he had me withdraw a large sum of money. Let's just say it was like $100,000 in cash. I've never had so much cash, like like on hand, like in my entire life. I go to the bank, I give them the slip. I said, I need this cash. And then the bankers looked at me like, what? I was like, yeah, my boss is a art collector, so he needs to buy some art. Here's the cash. Like I need the cash. So yeah, so they literally like I didn't know how they were gonna give it to me, but they literally went back, to the vault, whatever. I came back with this big block of cash, just all sealed already. Like, what? There's 100,000. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna walk you to your car so that you get, so that you get there safely. I'm like, okay, that'd be great. Of course, they covered it up, whatever. And then got in my car with this block of cash and drove back to the office.
How did you not want to just drive off with that money? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that type of person. I don't. I'm a nice person. I've had many opportunities where, yeah, I could have earned more, right, or I could have kept more money, just in general in life, not just like in that situation or at that time, just in life. But I don't do it. I'm too nice. If I do someone a favor, like let's say I'm buying something for someone and I buy it for them and they pay me back. Sometimes like they'll give me more money than what they actually owe me. I'm like, what is this for? And like, oh, just for your time. I'm like, well, no, I don't want it. Like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because I offer to do this for you. Like, why do I'm not asking for more money. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for my friends to help you out or whatever. I'm just not like that.
Yeah. Okay. So can you tell me what happened next in terms of where things started turning the different direction?
Yeah. So at, at one point, towards the end of my time with him, he was on vacation and I'm in the office working with all the rest of the employees. There's probably maybe 10, 10 or less people in the office at the time. All of a sudden, you just hear all this commotion because I'm in my own office and then there's like this outside common area where the rest of the employees were. So I'm in my office working or whatever. And I just hear like commotion and scream, like not screaming, but like yelling, like, I don't know what's being said. I was just like, what's going on? And these guys came into my office wearing like these windbreakers, like you see in the movies, these windbreakers, like these dark blue, navy blue, or whatever, windbreakers that says FBI on the back, like legit, no joke. They walk in, they're like, step away from your computer. I was just like, oh my God. So like I step away from my computer and then, and they're telling everyone to, stay away from the computer, whatever. Then all of a sudden they're like, just like, confiscating everything. They're starting to gather everything up, grabbing all the computers, grabbing all the files, and just putting them into boxes, I guess, and pulling them away. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Right. So I asked one of the guys, one of the agents, I was like, well, can I call my boss? Like, can I tell him what's happening? And so I did. So they allowed me to do that. I called them. I was like, there are FBI agents in the office, like maybe 15 of them right now. They're collecting everything, and and all the employees are just standing around, like, what is happening, right? Or like, what do I do? And he's in Florida on vacation, so he's like, call this person. He said, he told me to call a lawyer. So I said, okay, well, which one? So he told me which one to call. So I called that one. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And of course, the first thing they say is, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. I'm like, okay, I won't say anything, but what do I do? Like, I'm freaking out here. I'm in my 20s, no idea what's going on, right? So after a while, gosh, I can't remember exactly what happened after that, but it was just like, they pretty much I guess they gave me a card, like the business card, like, "Yeah, I'm like, we're gonna be contacting you, or if you have any questions, contact us," or something like that, right? I was like, okay. And then they hauled everything out of the office, and we're all just standing around like, what just happened, right? Um, and
Wow.
then yeah, and then after that, it was just months and months of trying to figure out why this happened, and what we need to do going forward. Um, and the months after that, I started seeing all of my bank accounts freeze up, including my personal account. Not just the business ones, but even my personal bank accounts were frozen. So I'm like, oh my God, I have no money. I can't I have no access to my money. Then my boss would be like, here's some cash, like to, kind of hold you over until we can fix this. Obviously, it was never fixed. I would say maybe a year or two after that, then the charges came from, I guess, the government, basically. So, and then I had to go through, maybe a year and a half of litigation, and I didn't. Obviously I couldn't afford a lawyer, so they they assigned a nonprofit one to me, and I would just speak to that lawyer, a few times a week, or sometimes just a few times a month. Towards the end, it was a lot less because obviously they knew that I wasn't that he was just a puppet master and we were the puppets doing everything that he was telling us to do. So yeah, I spoke to my lawyer and they pretty much told me that the best thing for me to do was to testify against him, against my boss, and plead guilty on one of the lesser charges and hope for the best and hope that the judge would give me a favorable sentence. And which she did. She ended up just giving me five years of probation, which just meant I couldn't travel anywhere. I could travel within the county that I lived in, but anytime that I went outside the county, I had to get approval. Anytime I went outside of the states, I had to get approval. But I could not at all travel outside of the country. They took my passport, they held it until my probation was over, and that was in 2014. And I got as soon as my probation was done, I went and applied for my passport and booked a flight. So
Good celebration trip. And I think that is
pretty
when we
much,
met. Yeah. And
yes.
wow, little did I know that was all happening recently in your life when I met you. I never would have known that. So when you had to testify against your boss and you had to see him again in court, was it very triggering or more like confusing? Like, how did you feel?
It wasn't it wasn't triggering. I barely made any contact with him, or I didn't make any eye contact with him. I was more angry at what he did to me because I felt like he manipulated me into this whole situation. But at the same time, I felt like I should have been smart enough to have known that, but I really didn't. I took his generosity of bringing me into his personal life, knowing his son, his daughter, or daughter, his son, his wife, and everything. And I took that as he's a genuine person, a genuinely nice person. But, but yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things you just kind of live and learn. And it was just a really hard life lesson for me, which kind of, and I've told you this before, I don't really regret it. I do regret it, but I don't, because I feel like that experience made me the person that I am now, which is just like this tough, this tough person that just keeps going and going, even when you hit bumps in the road.
Keeps going when the odds are against you. Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
I remember my jaw dropped when he said, I wouldn't change a thing about my past. I remember thinking, what? Um, and mind you, for everyone listening, you were, I believe, a single mom when all this happened. Is that correct?
I wasn't technically single. I was still with my ex. We were still physically like living together, raising our son. But I wasn't really. I wouldn't say I was a single mom, no. But I was. I was for many years during this time the only person bringing any type of income into the family. So I was providing for both my ex-husband and my son at the time for many years. But I would say for the majority of the time, but not the whole time, because he did hold various jobs here and there, but it was never consistent for him.
Wow. So how did you do it? Like going
Good
through all that.
question. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I think at one point, obviously, this whole litigation thing started, I was sad, I was miserable, I was depressed for like just all the time. I was just always depressed. And I think at one point, I don't even know when or how, I pretty much just said, fuck it. Like, I gotta live my life now and not live, in, not live in fear of what might happen later. Because at that time, I didn't know, am I gonna go to jail? Am I, what's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna be homeless? I had no idea. But I couldn't stop living because I was still alive. I still have my son that I had to care for. I still had to work. I still had to bring money, pay the rent, or you know, bring food to the table, things like that. So I just couldn't stop living. I just had to keep going. And so I just had that fuck it mindset and said, you know what, I'm just gonna live in the moment. And I believe that was the point in my life where I just said, I gotta live now and not even worry about what happened in the past or what might happen later in the future. I just have to keep going. And that's what I did. That's what I'm still doing now.
Wow. That's it's really hard to do. When was it like, how you said just one day you're like, screw this, like I have to live, like I have to live in the moment, I have to live now, life is now. Was it something that clicked in your brain? Was it something that kind of just that built over time? You're like, it just time passed for so long that you're like, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of staying in this state of mind. Like what was it? Or was it a built up, or did something happen? Or do you think it was in like your circumstance, like you had a son and that really helped?
I'm not quite sure, but I do believe that maybe the friends that I had at the time kind of helped me decide that. None of my friends at that time actually knew what I was going through. I actually didn't tell anyone. No one knew about this except for, oh God, really no one except for my ex at the time. He was the only one who knew what I was going through. But because I have so many good friends, because I was surrounded by so many good friends, that I felt like, you know what, like I'm with all these amazing people that care about me and I'm having so much fun with them. They don't know what I'm going through, and I don't need to tell them because it doesn't involve them. I don't need to, bring them into this. So I'm going to live my life as if none of that stuff is happening right now. And that's what I did.
And when you said you didn't tell them, was there any fear or shame or stigma that you felt, or more of like you felt like you could compartmentalize and separate the two worlds in a way?
I think it was mostly out of embarrassment because I felt dumb, for, I guess, putting myself in this situation. And again, how would I have known? I'm so young in my 20s, no idea, right? I mean, I'm more open about the story to a lot of my friends, or even just, even sometimes even casual chatting. I don't mind kind of bringing it up without specifics, but yeah, like my family doesn't even know. No, my sister doesn't know, and I'm really close to my sister. She has no idea.
Wow.
Why does she need to know? Because I mean, the fact is, I'm here now. I've already went through it. It's in the past now. They don't need to worry about it, or I don't want any of my past to affect them now, because it doesn't make any doesn't matter anymore, basically. So
Hmm. Um, Back at the court, do you feel like the judge and jury knew that deep down you were innocent because you didn't know what was going on?
absolutely, I think everyone knew. Everyone, all the agencies, the lawyers, everyone knew. Even the people involved that were in the litigation, all the defendants, just everyone, they all knew that I was just a puppet that he used.
Right.
And
And
even when I was speaking with some of the agents, like you can tell they felt so bad for me. They felt like horrible for this young, person to be going through this.
yeah, because it's like obviously you didn't know what you were doing was wrong because you were just following
Mhm.
instructions and your boss is nice and I get it. I used to be an assistant. You're like, okay, sure, I'll do that for you. Sure, I'll grab your lunch. Sure, you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. Um, but never would you think like someone was trying to again use you as a pawn, right? And during that time with probation, when you shared with me, I think this is the behind the scenes that people don't see. But what does probation look like when you were saying you weren't able to? And I know that you and I are more like independent type. And so what did that look like in terms of, when they say you cannot leave your county, and like reporting to someone and like it must have been hard because it sounds like it was like such a loss of freedom.
Yeah, it was, but that was the one time that I was actually like following directions, and like, yes sir, yes ma'am, yes I'll do this, yes I'll do that. Because I didn't want to mess up, because one little fuck up, or whatever, they can totally throw you in jail, and obviously I didn't want that. So yeah, so it was just pretty much, I think, monthly. Well, anytime I moved, I had to report to the probation officer. Anytime I moved to a different county, they had to assign me a different officer because each county is different. So I think I had to do it a couple times because I did move a couple times during my probation. And anytime that I did, so sometimes they would do like a pop-up surprise visit to your home.
Ooh, okay.
They say they do that, but it never happened to me because they know they know that I'm not a criminal. So that actually never really happened. But they did do, like, when I did move, they had to do initial visit to kind of look around to see who you're living with. You can, like, as a convicted criminal, you can't live with someone who is also a convicted criminal. So I had to, if I had roommates, I had to let them know, like, hey, this one who I'm living with or whatever, which never happened. So yeah, they say random drug tests. It was never random. They would just tell me like, hey, can you come in and do a test? Like, I think it was always like the initial change of officers. It was like, come in, do a drug test, and then we're gonna come over and do like a house visit. Okay, cool. So it was actually pretty easy, I think, for me, because again, I'm just like this little innocent girl that they convicted, and I'm just like, okay, I'll just stay at home and do whatever.
Wow.
But again, because
Mhm.
I didn't travel at that time, it didn't matter to me. I wasn't missing out on anything.
Oh, you weren't living the nomadic life yet.
No, no.
Right.
If that
Um,
would if that would happen now, that's a different story.
yeah. So obviously because of that, what happened, it's you it's on the record, like your record. And so, you know, people don't realize, but I think the reason I found out was when some topic came up when we were talking in Mexico together, and it was something about voting, and you just blurred out like, "Oh, I can't vote," and that's how I went. Wait, what? And you're like, "No, I'm not allowed to. I can't vote," and that's how I found out and got to the story. So, for with that a mark on your record, did you have problems finding work? Because that's something that some of us don't realize it can affect it in finding employment.
So I've
Background.
always worked, yeah, so I've always worked for smaller companies. I think maybe the biggest company I ever worked for was Disney. And that was like years ago when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. But I've always worked for small companies because this guy that I was working with, I worked with him for, oh gosh, I don't know, like 5 years or so. I was so used to doing that was the type of job I would look for. And those were the type of jobs I never really asked about my criminal background. And yeah, that was never really an issue
Right.
ever.
Okay.
And if I was like applying for something that was like on like an official application, obviously I would say that. I would say, yeah, I was convicted. But the things I don't really know how this thing works. Like if it's just like a state thing, a federal thing, I have no idea. I've had my background check and I've had those reports sent, like a copy of it sent to me, and I've looked through it. It's like not there. So I don't know what type of report it is on. I have no clue, and I just choose not to. I choose not to want to know, basically,
Yeah.
because if it doesn't affect my life now, then I don't need to know.
Do you feel like because of all this that happened, you now live more in the moment?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I live in the moment. Just be happy. Um, love the people that are around you, and yeah, like just don't worry about what's gonna happen in the future. I mean,
That
you
is
can,
so hard.
yeah, like
Yeah.
like people can say like you can change your future, like you can do things to make your life. You can change, you can choose the right path, but you can't choose those paths. When you come to a fork, the fork is already there. Do you go left or right? You don't know which one is gonna be better, but you can choose which one you think might be better, right? But you can't change like
What is on
what's
that
already
path
there.
already?
Exactly. You can't choose what's already there.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, got it. um, so fast forward to today. Um, I know you as always traveling. And so, since that time when we met and stuff and the probation was lifted, um, how's your life changed? Do you feel like it's back to normal now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what normal is, but I'm happy. I feel like I've lived a really good life. And that's why I say that I don't really regret what happened to me, because if that never happened, I don't know where I would be right now. So I mean, I would say that I don't know if I live a normal life. I don't know what normal is, you know, but I am happy with my life. I'm happy with the decisions I made in life. Not all of them. There are still things I do regret, like, oh my gosh, I could totally do things differently. But that's a life lesson that I just take and say, okay, I need to change this and just do better later.
And do you have well, today I know you as someone that travels the world and works abroad, which is something a lot of people dream about doing. So, you know, it is inspiring to be able to see that, hey, look, you went through all that and here you are today and being able to live your own life at your own terms, having the freedom you want. And also, like you said, be happy. So, with anyone that's going through a situation or scenario where it's a very long time, kind of like what you went through, where there's a lot of uncertainty, where there's a lot of like what ifs, this something dooming could happen. What advice would you have for them?
I think it's important to have someone to be there for you. I know it's easy for some people like you and I to say, you know what, I'm independent. I can do everything, I can do whatever I want. I can make my own decisions. I can, I don't need advice or I don't need help, but I truly do believe that you do need people, someone, even if it's one person. So for me, it's my husband. He's like my balance, right? Like I'm very sporadic. Like I make dumb decisions sometimes, like at the spur of the moment. Whereas he's like, okay, hold on, let's think about this first. I'm just like, no, let's do this, let's do this. So I'm like that, but he's more like here's my balance. So I think having someone like that has helped me in throughout the years. But if you don't have someone like that, then a friend, like any, I don't know, a best friend or a girlfriend you can talk to, a guy friend, whoever, or even a therapist, someone that can just kind of help guide you, would really help. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Any last words you want to say to listeners listening in?
Oh gosh, not no. I mean, I'm happy to be here to share my story. I mean, it's always a little nerve-wracking to share this, but if this helps anyone, going through anything in life, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. I've always known you as a person that has always been there for friends, willing to offer things in very maybe quiet ways without people's, I think people do realize it. And it's just a subtle like, yeah, no problem. You can borrow my car. It's like, what? Yeah, no problem. And things like that. Or, oh, you're in need of help. I know someone. So, and I
Yeah,
know like this story is very unique and one of a kind. I haven't really known anyone else that has it where, when things seem unfair and odds are against you, and how do you persevere through that and keep trucking along? So I know it will inspire someone. It will help other people get through what they're going through. And
yeah,
who knows, maybe they'll become a digital nomad like you, travel around the world.
yeah.
Oh,
Do it.
yeah. Thanks so much for being here, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's episode, my friend. I hope you were inspired by Sarah's incredible journey. And if you enjoyed that episode, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on any episodes coming up. And it'll really help us reach more of our vibrant community. I'd be really grateful if you left me a review over on Apple and Spotify too. Those reviews help other people find my podcast. And remember, the fun doesn't stop here. The magic continues over at thehappyhealingshop.com, where we keep the conversations going, and you'll find tons of resources to help and support you on your spiritual journey, including blog posts, guides, video series, and more. Until we meet again, my friend, always remember to shine your light brightly and to share your story, because you never know who it can help or inspire to create a change in their own world. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.